Morning guys, so this video is going to be looking at the changing life in Germany, and it's going to be looking at the Hitler Youth, which is the so it's life of children and young people during Nazi Germany. So today's video is going to take a slightly different format. As we go through, you're going to notice there is a number of tasks as we go along, so I think there's 9 tasks in total. Tasks are just short questions, so each time you see a task after I've talked through it, just pause the video, answer the question in your copies. Okay, about a few sentences for each question. I then continue on with the video, and then at the end of the lesson you're going to send me a picture of all of those questions answered in your copies. So, life in Germany for young people. We talked in the last lesson about propaganda and how German symbols were very much part of life. German films were everywhere. We talked with Leni Riefenstahl and her use of films. We talked a bit about how the Nazis got people to believe what they believed. So today, and how to use fear and intimidation. Today we're going to look at how they tried to mould children of Germany to agree with them as well. So the main way that they did this was through an organisation called the Hitler Youth. Okay? And the idea of having children on your side is because if you can get the young people on your side, then it means that your ideas are going to live a lot longer. Alright, so they were looking at keeping control for long term, and if you want to have that, you need to get young people on your side so that when they grow up and they're in control of government and they're in control of policies, that they'll continue on with your ideas. Okay, so the youths, what they were was basically a club for young people that all young people were encouraged to join. Okay, so it was divided into a number of different sections. You had boys and girls were separated. So the first group we had is the German young people, or the Cubs. Okay, and this was any boys between the ages of 10 and 14 were expected to join this group. I'm not going to try and pronounce the German spelling, okay, but you can use, if you're better at languages than me, you can try it out. The second group was girls aged 10 to 14, and they joined the League of Young Girls. Okay, so young groups, okay, 10 to 14, separated into boys and girls. Then after the German young people, if you're a boy, you would move on to become part of Hitler Youth. Okay, so this is kind of the most famous organisation, and it's kind of the name we use for all the organisations together. And this is for boys of 14 to 18 years old. Okay, which are encouraged to join the Hitler Youth organisation, whereas girls in that age bracket, so 14 to 18 years old, were encouraged to join the League of German Girls. Alright, so you see there's 4 different organisations there, but they're all pretty much aimed towards the same thing, and that is indoctrinating, okay, or getting the young people to believe in the Nazi ideology. Alright, so Hitler Youth, it was formed in 1926, so this is when Hitler was becoming popular, but he's not quite, he hasn't gained any political control yet. And by the time it reaches 1932, when he is in political control, there's already 108,000 youths between 10 and 18 had joined up. So you can see why that he's so popular, okay? You can see why he won the election, okay? Because even the young people, even this huge amount of young people, engaged with his political party. Okay, now maybe it was their parents who kind of encouraged them into it, but there's a huge amount of people already supporting him. Now that number is going to grow hugely over the next few years, but it's already quite substantial. Alright, so if you're in the Hitler Youths, the idea of being in this was that you were becoming indoctrinated into the Nazi way of thinking, and that you would grow to be a loyal Nazi members. So there's 2 different, here's on the board in the video is 2 different oaths that you might, that the members of these organisations might take. So the first one we'll read through in a second is an oath taken by 10-year-olds when they enter the Deutsche Jungvolk. Okay, so that's the younger group of boys. And the pledge that they would have to take, so before they could join, they would have to stand up and agree to the following. In the presence of this bloodbander, which represents the Führer, I swear to devote all my energies and my strength to the saviour of our country, Adolf Hitler. I am willing and ready to give up my life for him, so help me God. So this is what 10-year-olds in Nazi Germany are standing up and saying. Right? Now look at the words that are being used there. The President's blood banner. I devote all my energies. I'm willing and ready to give up my life. It's really very, very strong language. Okay? When you got a bit older, so 14 to 18-year-olds would have to take the following oath or pledge of allegiance. I promise to do my duty in love and loyalty to the Führer and our flag. So again, you can see total commitment to the Nazi cause and to Hitler himself. Right? So this is feeding into Nazi propaganda very, very obviously. And remember we talked about the cult of the leader. So they're very much building up this cult of Hitler as this all-powerful leader that everyone should be loyal to. Right? So task 1 for today. Remember I said you can just pause when you see these tasks and try and answer them. Take 2 or 3 minutes to answer the question. So why do you think that Hitler and the Nazis made young people repeat these promises over and over again while in the Hitler Youth? What was the point of making them say these things over and over again? Okay, so we'll move on once you've answered that question. On to the second one. You see there's another task here, so I'll talk through it for a minute and then you can go and answer it in your copies. So the question we're looking at here is why do you think that it was necessary for Nazis to pass laws concerning the Hitler Youth? So underneath you'll see this is taken from the Nazi Youth Law on the 1st of December 1936. Alright, and this telling us a bit, you want to think about Nazis' vision of the future of Germany and the rebellious youths and parents. So what the law says is the future of the German nation depends upon its youth and must be prepared for its future duties. The whole of German youth is organised in the Hitler Youth. All German young people, apart from being educated at home and at school, will be educated in the Hitler Youth physically, intellectually and morally in the spirit of National Socialism to serve the nation and the community. Alright, so if you look at this, you can see that they're taking a lot of control. I mean, the law seems to state that everyone is expected, everyone has to join the Hitler Youth. Alright, so why do you think they have to pass a law saying that? Right? So remember, think about what we said about the popularity of the Nazis, about how many people support them. Yes, they're popular. Did everyone support them? Do you think everyone wanted to join? Okay, so what do you think? Why do you think they have to pass this type of law? So again, pause, answer that question, and then we'll move on. Alright, so the Hitler Youth, once you join the Hitler Youth, now it's not good enough for the Nazis just to have people in an organisation, they need to control that organisation. They need to have complete power over people, they need to brainwash people into really committing themselves entirely to their ideas. Alright, so a few of the rules that would be given to the Hitler Youth would be members of the HA, so the Hitler Jugend, the Hitler Youth, must not be seen in uniform with girls. So this is for the boys of 14 to 18. When they're in uniform, they are not to be seen around girls. They must only be spending time with other youths. So maybe think about who else wears uniforms in the Nazi society. Why might they want boys to be getting used to not being around girls? Why might they be trying to build that up? Members of the Hitler Youth must not buy things at Jewish shops. Right, so what ideas are they trying to put in there? Right? And Hitler Youth members must ignore friends and parents while marching along. But while they are marching, while they are being part of the organisation, of the group, they have to ignore their friends and family. They are totally committed to the group. So read through those rules. Okay, how much control do you think the Hitler Youth had over the lives of young people within Nazi Germany? Okay. So remember, Hitler, HJ is, I'm translating it into English as Hitler Youth. Okay, HJ is the German initials. So we just want to think here. What I want you to answer, the question you want to answer is, when you've read them, how much control do you think the Hitler Youth had over the lives of young people? And maybe think about what is the reason for each of those questions. Why are they putting those in? What kind of ideas are they trying to get into people's heads? So again, pause and answer those questions. Alright, so there's a few facts now we need to learn about the Hitler Youth. Okay, so they're all going to come up quite quickly. The youth experience outdoor activities such as hiking and camping. Okay, so kind of almost similar to the Scouts in that aspect. this state that Hitler and the Nazis wanted them very well able to be and used to the outdoors. Okay, and this might be to do with their physical health. Okay, it links them with some of the ideology, but it's also to do with preparing them to be soldiers. Soldiers need to be able to do these kind of things like hiking and camping. You had to swear an oath of allegiance to the Führer. Okay? And this is how one of the ways in which the Nazis encouraged complete and total loyalty to Hitler during his time. Remember, thinking back to that cult of a leader. And the abbreviation for Hitler Youth was HJ. Okay? So you'll see that. You need to be aware of that because you might see it coming up in documents and sources when we're looking at an exam or a project. At 14, girls joined the League of German Girls, BDM. The aim of the Hitler Youth was to prepare boys for military service and to be strong future leaders of Germany. So that's really, really important to even see how important military and the army and war is to the Nazis. They have to be prepared because they know that other countries are going to be in opposition to them. Right? Even before this being set up before the war, they know that's coming and preparing for that well in advance. Okay? They're building up a very, very strong army even for the future here in Germany. By 1932, there were 108,000 members of the Hitler Youth. Emphasis in Hitler Youth and BDM was placed on physical fitness, group activities, and obedience to the Nazi Party. So, physically fit. They want people who can fight for them. Group activities. If you're a soldier, you have to be able to work part of the group. Also, if you get someone indoctrinated into a group, getting someone to believe they're part of a group, it's much easier to control them because they think, oh well, the whole group's doing this, so maybe I'll do it too. Alright, and obedience to the National Party, they train them not to question. Very, very different to what we do in modern education now. In education nowadays, we're trying to encourage you to question things. Alright, back in Nazi Germany, it's the exact opposite. They don't want them asking questions. If people ask questions, maybe they'll think too much about what the Nazis are saying and they'll disagree. So it's just blind obedience is what they're looking for. The Hitler Youth law was passed in 1936 and stated that all youth should belong to the Hitler Youth. Joining the Hitler Youth became compulsory in 1939. So by 1939, all young people must be a member of this. The aim of the BDM was to prepare girls for motherhood, okay? So one of the big, strong ideas of the Nazis was that they needed to build their population, to grow the population, to be strong and be able to fight in multiple other countries, multiple nations, to have the most powerful country in the world. And so they were preparing women were encouraged to be mothers and to have numerous children, and that's what they were trying to prepare girls for as well. And by 1939, there were 7.3 million members of the Hitler Youth. So you can see how much that has grown. That is a 70 times the amount that was in, so a 700% increase. No, 7,000% increase? You guys are better than maths than me, you'll figure it out. It was a huge increase from 108,000 up to 7.3 million. Right? It's now one of this huge organisation because pretty much every youth in the country has to be a member of it. Alright, but you can make all these rules. How did young people react to it? So young people, what they tended to think was many young people enjoyed the Hitler Youth. Okay, remember the young people, they don't really, a lot of them they're put into these organisations at very young ages, so they don't understand the brainwashing of it. Right? They're not really thinking a huge amount about some of the ideas that are being taught to them. They're thinking about what the activities are, and the activities are things like camping and hiking and weapons training. If you want to get teenage boys to agree with you, give them weapons, and you're going to get them, interested. Right? So all of these are kind of exciting activities, things that young people enjoy, and that's trying to get them. Is one way that they can get people to be part of this group, or be actively not rebel against the group. Many young people like the idea that they felt important because when they have the uniform, they go on marches and they have respect from people while they're members of this group. All right, so they feel that the organisation is offering them a lot in that respect. Some people disliked how strict it was, being told what to do and when to do it. Okay, it's very much like an army And that's a very difficult thing to be a part of, and when you're forced to be part of it, it makes it even more difficult. So some people did this, a lot of youth would have disliked that aspect. And a lot of young people resented that the other clubs and youth groups were banned. Okay, so anything outside of the Hitler Youth, that was the only organisation the young people could be a part of. Everything else was gone. Any other clubs or societies or anything like that were getting rid of. Alternative youth clubs sprang up across Germany, so the Edelweiss Pirates, the Navajost Gang and the Kittelbach Pirates, okay? But these were not the ones that they were, this is not what the government wanted people to be in. Right, a lot of these would be maybe secret societies and quite dangerous to be part of. Majority of young people are in the Hitler Youth. Alternative youth groups ambushed Hitler Youth patrols and beat them up. Some girls resented the fact that they were trained to be housewives and mothers at such a young age. Right, so there becomes a bit of conflict within the young people of Nazi Germany because we have these different groups sprouting up that are in opposition to Hitler Youth, and you also have the girls, young girls saying, we're only teenagers, why are we being trained to be mothers at this age? And they can also see, the different activities the boys are getting to do that they're probably not getting to be involved in. And finally, lots of youths wanted to listen to jazz, try out new fashions and hairstyles, smoke and drink alcohol, but all of this was banned by the Hitler Youth. Right, so it's a very, very difficult society to be part of. It's very strict rules. It doesn't really give teenagers the freedom and to make their own choices. Right, which is what teenagers, need. It's good for teenagers to be able to make choices, and so there's obviously going to be a lot of resentment around the fact that they can't be involved in modern trends. Jazz music is the big music of the time. It's like the pop music of today. Jazz is what everyone wanted to listen to at the time. They couldn't change their hair. They always had to be in perfect uniform. Right? They couldn't smoke. They couldn't drink, which is things that teenagers tend to experiment with a bit. Right? So it's very, very strict rules upon this group of people. All right. So just give you back to a bit of an activity. This picture here, as you can see, is an illustration of what the Hitler Youth might be up to on a weekend. So I want you to look at all the different arrows pointing to the various different aspects of the picture, and for each of those arrows I want you to write in what you think is going on in that picture. What does that tell us about the activities of the Hitler Youth? Alright, so up at the top you can see that the youths are marching in formation, so you can see them being quite army-like. Okay, they're all in uniform. Right, down at the bottom on the right hand side you can see there are two drums, okay, and one of the drums seems to have the SS symbol on it, okay, or one of the Nazi symbols. So they're being involved in music, they're being trained, but the drums are very much a part of an army music. Okay, you can see up on the top left flag, okay, there's symbols. We talked about the importance of symbols within in propaganda. Right? You can see the camping, that have been trained how to build tents so they'll be able to survive in the wild. So if they become soldiers, that they'll be able to deal with marching and being in different terrains where they might not have beds or housing, that they'll be able to camp out. And you can see them also cooking, right? Because if they're going to be soldiers, they're going to need to have that skill to be able to cook for themselves, right? So all of these different activities are all about training them to be soldiers. Right. Next thing we're going to look at then is a poster, a very, very famous poster that went up in order to encourage people to become members of the Hitler Youth. And a few things we can see here in the poster. We can see a faint outline of Hitler's face there in the background. Okay, showing that, remember, we have a cult of a leader. Everyone wants to be attached to. People want to be close to Hitler, so they're looking at that picture. We see young Hitler Youth boy, and he's very what we call Aryan in appearance. Now, we're not going to go into this huge detail just yet, but the Aryan idea is the idea Hitler had, that there was a perfect type of human. Okay, that some humans were better than others, and he believed that people with blonde hair, blue eyes, for men they should be around 6 foot tall, and they should have a strong bone structure. And this was what Hitler seen as being the perfect appearance, and he believed these people were a superior evolution to people with darker hair. And we're not going to go into huge details just now about why he thought that, but you can see here that the boy in the picture very much is embodying that appearance. Right? We can see there's a military smart uniform, okay, so that's the symbol of being part of the group. And then down at the bottom in the white writing you'll see that the caption is written in bold, and that what it says is the youth serves the Fuhrer, all 10-year-old boys into the Hitler Youth. So very much encouraging, that's the text at the top as well, very much encouraging people to be members of the Hitler Youth. So again, a few questions here. You're going to pause and try and answer the question: who is this poster aimed at? Why was this poster produced? And what does this poster tell you about Nazi attitudes toward young people? Okay, then moving on, another poster, another aspect of propaganda. Okay, so you can see that this aspect of propaganda is a little bit different to the last one. But if you look at the writing, we have Hitler Jugend. Okay, so we're talking about the Hitler Youth again, so it's still to do with the same organisation. So if we look at what aspects we see a Nazi party flag in the background, so that's symbolism of propaganda. We have a smiling, happy face on the woman. Okay, she's happy to be involved in this. Again, we have the Aryan appearance. We see her blonde hair. Okay, she is slim. She has very strong features in her face. She is part of the ideal image of what people should look like for the Nazis. You see, she's a flag bearer. Okay, so you see here she is holding a flag. That means she is very much an important part and very much a proud part of the Nazi tradition. And again, we can see the message or caption in bold to make it stand out. So again, we're going to pause here. I want to look at the questions. Who is this poster aimed at? Why was this poster produced? And what makes it so effective? So again, pause here and discuss questions. Alright, so moving on, I'm just going to look at a few more sources before the end. Right? And the first one we're going to look at is this picture here, and in this picture you can see a number of two groups playing a football game, and they're all saluting. Okay, I want you to tell me, what does this tell you about the degree to which young people in Germany were exposed to Nazi ideas and beliefs? Okay, so think about what they're doing, think about what they're about to be doing, and think about why they're saluting. What's the point of the salute? And look at how every member of this young group is saluting. Okay, we don't do that anymore. That's very much something that salutes are something to do with the army. So why are these young people being encouraged to do it? Right, figures showing membership of the Hitler Youth. Okay, so you can see how it's growing very, very rapidly here. So in 1932 you have 108,000. By 1934 you're already up to 3.6 million. And then 2 years later, up to 5.4, then up to 7. And up to 7.3 million by 1939. Alright, now it is worth noting that in 1939 there was 8.9 million young people between the age of 10 and 18 in Germany. Okay, so not all are members, but the vast majority, we're talking about around 80% of young people are members of Hitler Youth. And based upon all that you've learned so far, based upon everything we've looked at in terms of this of Hitler Youth today, I want you to write a detailed account of what you think it might be like to be part of the Hitler Youth. So I'm looking for about half a page here explaining what would it be like to be part of Hitler Youth. You want to think about the different activities that they're doing. You want to think about what encouraged them to join. Okay, you want to think about maybe some of the ideas they didn't agree with. Right, but you also want to think about the numbers, the fact that 80% of people are in it. I'm looking for half a page on that to be written. Okay, and so that's going to be the last activity or last task for today. Right, so remember, once you get all of those tasks done, you can take a picture of them, okay, and then email me that picture. I'm looking for at least 2 to 3 sentences for each of the first 7 tasks, okay, depending on the individual way it's broken down. And this last one we're looking for about half an A4 page, so lots and lots of details. At least tell me at least 6 or 7 different points about what you've learned about the Hitler Youth in today's lesson. Alright, thank you.